Good morning, everyone. As we were studying about this chapter, transport in plants, or you can say transport through roots, we were talking about the systems in the plants and how molecules travel in spaces or inside the plant or through membranes. And there are a series of things that we discussed about it, that how minerals, nutrients are gathered by the plant root and they are transported throughout the plant. And we also discussed in the previous video how absorption takes place. There are few things that I want to repeat again, like we would be discussing about the process in absorption. It includes imbibition, and it is the absorption of water by surface tension in living or dead cells of plants, and is called imbibition. It may occur in their dry as well as the semi-dry state. So what happens is a plant seed also goes through this process, because by this process only inside the seed water goes. And imbibition basically talks about the receiving or absorption of water by surface tension, that like there is a force, a tension created on the surface by water, and the molecules of water are absorbed by that dried, dead or living plant. And in imbibition there is a passive absorption of water, which means that there is no energy required for it, and it is a passive way of energy required. One more thing that you should need to know is the difference between an active transport and a passive transport. So active transport generally requires energy, but in passive transport there is no energy required. And in last classes we also discussed about topics like diffusion, osmosis, exosmosis and endoosmosis. So diffusion is the movement of molecules from a substance of higher concentration towards the substance of lower concentration, and is called diffusion. So it is the movement of molecules where they are present in large quantities, then they travel to the spaces where they are absent. Like I gave you an example about perfume. When you spray in one corner, so this is also a type of diffusion, because the molecules of that perfume, or you can say the aroma, is also traveling, because inside the bottle the concentration is higher. It's going out, and where you have sprayed the concentration is also higher, but it reaches to all the spaces. In that particular space, till where it can reach, the molecules will travel, and this is called diffusion. So it is the movement of molecules from a substance of higher concentration towards the lower concentration, and it is called diffusion. Whereas osmosis is the movement of water. So in diffusion it is just the movement of molecules, but osmosis, it is only the movement of water molecules from higher concentration through a semi-permeable membrane, and is known as osmosis. So students, you need to know this difference, because in diffusion and osmosis same type of phenomena is happening, but different. How? Because that is talking about only molecules, and molecules can be of anything, whereas osmosis only talks about water, and it passes through a semi-permeable membrane. So semi-permeable membrane is a type of membrane which allows certain particles and holds back certain particles. Like a seed absorbs only water, it will not absorb sand. Okay, because that is a semi-permeable membrane, and there are pores present inside which can only allow a certain size. So there are different types of membranes, and you can look and dig deep inside your books, gets help from other topics as well, because these are discussed in classes from 7th, 8th, 9th onwards. So here you should only need to know that it is movement from higher concentration to through a semi-permeable membrane. Osmosis is also of two types. One is exoosmosis. It is the movement of molecules outward through a semi-permeable membrane, and the other is endoosmosis. So in exoosmosis, the molecules are moving outside from a cell body through a semi-permeable membrane. But in endoosmosis, it is the water molecules which are moving inside, inward through a semi-permeable membrane. So these are few things that are very important when you understand in the process of absorption. And lastly, as I told you, that passive transport is where energy is not required, but in active transport, the molecules require, not the molecules, actually the transport requires the energy, and it is a type of transport where molecules move across the cell surface membrane against a diffusion gradient or against the force that is normally acting. Like water present inside the soil is in more quantity. Sometimes it is in very less quantity. So when you put a lot of water in a bag and you put a plant roots inside, so there is a lot of pressure. But when there is less water, the plant still needs water to absorb, and it needs nutrients. So nutrients present inside the soil is actually low, but they are moved inside through this process which moves against the diffusion gradient, and this is called active transport. And we can understand this topic in Ascent of Sap. As you can see in the image, the ascent of sap is the movement which is upward against the concentration gradient. So ascent of sap, which is the upward movement of water inside a plant. Okay, so here what is happening from the left down corner, here you see on top transpiration creates a pull. It is creating a pull. Transpiration is the formation of water vapor, or when the sunlight falls on the leaves, then it is the evaporation of water through the leaves, passing of water. So it is creating a transpiration pull, whereas down below osmosis is pushing water into root hairs, and there is a root pressure which is developed and is pushing the water towards the top of the column of the plant. So here what is happening? Two things are happening. One is the capillary action, the other are the force of the adhesion cohesion. So capillary action results in a rise upward at the base of stem, and capillary action is seen in other things as well. If you drop a thread inside a bucket of water and you just leave that thread, then the capillary action will also happen in the fibers of a thread, and you will see water being absorbed by it, by the dry surface. And adhesion cohesion is making a column of water molecules, and they are all moving. So Briefly, ascent of sap is the upward movement of water. And we can see these actions, these forces here. Now you can read with me. Number 1, cohesion is the tension water can reach to the top of the plant. Even when there is no capillary or root pressure involved, is due to cohesion tension. So it is a type of molecules cohesion to each other. It is like a tension, a force created between the molecules, and these they hold each other. One molecule moves, and behind that the other molecules moves, and the water moves like that, even without the capillary action. So cohesion is known as the tension. It is a action which is necessary in ascent of sap, which is the forces which are involved in it. Secondly, it is capillarity or the capillary action. It is helpful to get water to the top of the plant in only smaller plants, but not for all tall trees. So capillary action, because against the capillary action, gravitational pull is also acting. So the movement that is inside the water is this capillarity is only useful in small plants. And we see root pressure. It is the pressure created by active secretion of mineral ions by the cells of endodermis into xylem, which causes a water potential gradient. So water potential gradient, see here 3 words are used. Water, which we are learning that how it is being traveled. Potential is the potential energy inside the water molecules, and then there is a gradient, which is the quantity of that particular molecules. So water potential gradient, it is the type of force that it is which is created. So it is the pressure which is created by active secretion of mineral ions which are charged, and they require a type, or not just the type, they require energy in the form of ATP. And if you read carefully in the Ascent of Sap and you look at the diagrams in your book, you will find out how the root hairs, the concentration of water is pulled and the root pressure is developed. And it is the pressure which is created by the active secretion of mineral ions by the cells of endodermis into the xylem. Endodermis is present inside the dermal layer of the roots, which causes a water potential gradient, and it pulls the water up. Then other pressure which is on the ascent of sap, or the other thing which helps the ascent of sap, is the turgor pressure. The pressure on cell wall by cell sap is called turgor pressure, is the whole turgidity. So it is the pressure on the cell wall. When you put a cell inside any kind of concentration like water or a mixture of sugar, the force is acting on the cell wall. Okay, but inside a plant, cell sap is known as the mixture of all the mineral ions and other gradients that are in it. So it is the pressure that is created on cell wall by cell sap, and cell sap is just all the liquid that is inside the water, inside the plant or inside the plant cell. So turgor pressure and imbibition generate this great force, and which helps in ascent of sap. Lastly, transpiration pull. It is the pull created due to transpiration, and it is called the transpiration pull. So see, a column is filled with water. So when you suck water from the top, automatically from down below, if there is a space and it is dipped in water, then you are pulling that water as well. The same thing is happening here. So when transpiration happens and a lot of water molecules are evaporated from the surface of the plant, then what happens is the water which is being absent from that particular region, it will create a pull so that other molecules can take its place. So this is known as the transpiration pull. This is the pull which is generated by transpiration. And this is all for the absorption by roots, and you can also look for the previous video that we discussed about, and please find some time to read this chapter carefully and thoroughly, and you will understand how this ascent of sap is happening. So lastly, just look at this diagram. We all know there are two kinds of cells inside the plant or tissues which are of very important, which are xylem and phloem. And if you can look at this diagram, you will see how this is all transport is happening. Look at the right side on the leaf. See here, the food is made by the leaf, and water and minerals from the soils come inside, because we know that photosynthesis is the creation of glucose with the help of chlorophyll and sunlight. Carbon dioxide and water is utilized, and evaporation of water is also happening at the same time, and it is creating a pull from down. And we know that xylem tissue is carrying water and dissolved minerals up to the roots, and inside the stem, when the food is being made and stored there, then the food also gets transported, and phloem tissue carry food up as well as down. So this is a basic representation of transport. So you read the chapter carefully, go through all the topics, and please remember to learn these definitions, and you should understand what is diffusion, osmosis, what is the difference, what is cohesion, capillarity, how root pressure and turgor pressure is helping the absorption inside the roots in a plant. Thank you so much. You have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.